The question is, if you were to start an e-commerce business from scratch, how would you do it? Lots of ideas, but only one really catches me. There are three things to consider here, and before we get into those, let's talk about the types of businesses that you end up with when you start an e-commerce company. E-commerce is about time versus money. How much time are you putting in? How much money are you getting out? So there's a 2x2 situation there. Lots of time, lots of money, not a lot of money, not a lot of time. Let's talk about those four situations first. The most common situation is probably this. You put in a lot of time and you don't get a lot of money out. It means your business model was incorrect. So let's just forget those people, because you're not going to be one of them, and say, let's move on to the next one. You put in a lot of time, and you also put in a lot of money. Get out a lot of money, sorry. You get out a lot of money with the time you put in. In this situation, what you've done is you've essentially bought yourself a job. Yeah, you're self-employed, you're working for yourself, but you're putting in a lot of time, probably enough to equal that of a job, to get out that you would get from a job. So you've bought yourself a job. We're going to look at the ideal of e-commerce, which is you don't have to be awake to be making money. And those two business models are completely about no time expense, but you're making money, hopefully. Okay, so one of those models is you put in a lot of time, you put in no time, but you make almost no money anyway. That's the worst case, honestly. Out of all four of those, I think that's the worst, because you're going to be kicking yourself as to, was it my business model that was incorrect, or did I not put in enough effort? Those are the questions you have to deal with. Okay? And that's actually quite common. I had a business myself that was like that, and I just didn't know, should I put more effort into it, or should I just give it up because there's a bad business model? That's really a hard question to answer. So let's move on to the ideal model, which is very little time, a lot of money. A business model that is quite uncommon, but actually quite possible if you know what you're doing. I've done it several times. The idea of little time, lots of money stems from leverage. It stems from the ability to get money from multiple sources by leveraging a certain platform or by leveraging a certain demographic. So I'm going to lead you into this process slowly, but I'm going to start by introducing you to certain concepts of the e-commerce model that I would consider before you even start. So the first is your budget. Do you have a budget to start an e-commerce business? And this actually intersects with the next concept, which is your business going to be arbitrage based, or is it going to be brand based? I completely recommend you go with a brand based business. If you go with an arbitrage based business, and if you don't know what that means, it means you're buying a product at a low price and you're selling at a high price, but it's a product that everybody knows about. It could be like you have an inn with Neutrogena and you can buy wholesale at a cheap price, or maybe you're drop shipping a product that's actually quite popular. The idea there is that there's going to be some difference in prices around the world, and you're making money off that difference. Now, a lot of eBay sellers and Amazon sellers use that model for the business completely. The problem is they're not the only people using that model. There are other people using the same model that drives the price down, and eventually everybody's fighting on price and they all die. That's not the model I recommend if you start an e-commerce business. If I started my own e-commerce business from scratch again, I would do it the same way I did with Amazon FBA. I would make my own products, make my own brand, so that I have no competitors on the market, so that I fill a need in that certain niche that I've chosen, and that there's no real reason to fear that what I'm doing is going to eventually fizzle out in the future, which is what happens for a lot of arbitrage sellers, because competitors enter the market. Let's say you get in first for the iPhone case. You get in first. You're the first one selling iPhone cases. Well, now just type iPhone case anywhere. Google, eBay, Amazon. You have a lot of competitors, and you're probably not going to be making as much money as you did in the beginning. So you're going to switch to a new product. If you're a smart guy, you're switching to a new product with no competitors or little competitors. And in that case, you're probably going to make money in the long run, but it's going to be a struggle because you're constantly switching product categories. If you brand your product, you don't have to deal with that because your product is in a certain niche, it fills a certain need, and that need is always going to be there. That's the idea of forming a long-term e-commerce business. So that issue there, plus your budget, is the main issue of what most people deal with when they start an e-commerce business. Do you have the budget to start your own website? If not, then you need a platform. You need eBay, you need Rakuten, you need Amazon. Once you have that platform, then the question becomes, do you have the budget to create your own product? Most people would say, if they said no to the previous question, they'd say no to this question. But that's a mistake, because creating your product is actually quite cheap. I created my first product for less than $600, and then plus shipping was like above $600. So for $600, I got 100 units of my first product. I sold it at $37.37 US. I made $4,000 on a $600 something investment. You can do the same thing, but you have to brand your product. The only reason I sold all of my inventory was because I branded it. It's not because of arbitrage. It's not because of anything else. It's because I branded it. I put it on a platform that sells well, which was Amazon FBA, and I just let sales come in. I didn't spend any money on marketing, except for a little bit on advertising within that platform, and just sales came in automatically. When I first put my product online, I didn't put any money into marketing. People bought my product. It was amazing, but I knew it would happen because I positioned my product correctly. I didn't know that people would find my product so quickly, but I knew that once people found my product, they would want to buy it. And that is what I leave you with. If you want to start an e-commerce business, it's not about where you put it. Though there are certain places that will alleviate your budget. It's more about branding the product. And what I want to teach you in the future is how to brand a product so that when you put it on a platform, hopefully Amazon FBA, because that's the easiest one, and I'll tell you that later in this course, you're going to be able to sell it easily, even outperforming competitors that are name brand competitors. That's what I leave you with today. I hope that you continue this series of free training for Amazon FBA, and in the future you'll realize that this business model is super easy to set up, doesn't cost a lot of money, and once you get it set up, it's pretty much passive. You could go back to your day job and you won't need to worry about extra money ever again if you set up correctly.